Okay, welcome back everyone. So let's move on with the active configuration now. So the next one will be the active. Now this is my topology, just I will simplify this topology for you. So basically I do have the two ASA, ASA1 and ASA2. So there are outside interface, there is an inside interface, as well as there is a DMZ interface. This will be the out, this will be the inside, and this will be the DMZ. All right. So all of them are connected to the one switch over here, but I will come to that one later on. So let's understand how the topology has been connected and how I am going to configure it. So the E0 will be the outside, E1 will be the inside, and E2 will be the DMZ. And there will be two links over here for failover, E3, which will be looking for my failover link, and E4, which will be doing my configuration. So either way, you can use any one of them. So if you're saying that this one is the LAN one, that will replicate and synchronize the configuration. If you say this one is the link one, that is going to detect the failover. But again, these two links will also be connected to the switch. That's what I have done here. Now, since I am using the context, so what I am doing is that each individual interface I am dividing into two sub interfaces. For example, E0.1 and E0.2. Similarly with all the interfaces. Right. So what I'm going to do is that one of the interface will belong to the context number S1. Another one will be belongs to the context number S2. So in this way, what I'm allocating is that each sub interface is being allocated to one of the context in both the ASAs. So now after that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to break this ASA into two of them, context S1 and S2. So once I once I created the two virtual firewalls, that is two virtual contexts, S1 and S2, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to allocate each interface from each of the interfaces to each of the context. Now these links will utilize those configuration synchronization and failover detection. One will be for failover, another one for the configuration. So I created the S1 and I said that I'm going to allocate E0.1, E1.1 and E2.1. I allocated the context S2. I said that E0.2, E1.2 and Ethernet 1.3. These are the interfaces. There should be one more context, that is the admin context. So in the admin context, I am going to use the E5 as the, what do we say, interface, E5 interface as the management. And there will be one more context by default, that is the system context. So if you want to change from any of those contexts, first you will go to the system, then you will go to the other context, or if you like to go from one context to another directly, you can also go. But the system context will allow you to do the interfaces globally, no shut. Or if you want to do some changes, that's where you will do. So it's mainly with the failover configuration. So we are going to do the failover configuration on the system context, the default one. And these are the three contexts which we are going to create. One will be the admin context. So now admin context, you see that I do have only one interface. I did not divide into the sub interfaces because we are not sharing those links over there. But with the other context, I am sharing the single interface for both of them. So that's why I am allocating this one. So if you have more interfaces, you can go ahead and you can say that, okay, E0, E1 and E2, E3, E4 and E5, then you can go ahead with management E6. And you can go ahead with this one as E7 and E8. So if you have more interfaces, you're very much welcome to utilize those links individually. And again, all depends upon your bandwidth. So currently I'm doing the lab, so I do not require any bandwidth. So that's why I'm just using the sub interfaces to make things a little complicated and also good for you. All right, so that's what I'm going to do now. So what I'm going to do is that I do have one PC1 and PC2, and on the DMZ, I do have the sales PC and the marketing PC, and I want PC1 to access only the sales one, and I want PC to access only the marketing one. Now, these are the all remote remote PCs. So that's what we are going to do. So we are going to allow this particular IP address on the context S1 to access the sales one. And we are going to allow this interface on the context of S2 to allow the access only for the marketing one. So we can segregate that configuration. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do one by one. So before I go ahead, I will explain you my topology here also. So now if you see that on the switch, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create the VLANs. And if you see that I need VLANs until 7, so 1 will be the default. So from 2 to 7 VLANs, all the 6 VLANs I will create it. And you see that interfaces of these switches, these all links will be the trunk ports, this link will be the trunk port, and this link will be the trunk port. So altogether that will be the 5 plus 5 plus 2, that will be the 12 interfaces on my switch will be acting as the trunk ports. And this interface over here, that will be 3/0, which will be VLAN number 4, and 3/1 will be VLAN number 5. Okay, those are the individual ones. All right, so let's go ahead and do the configuration. So before we do any configuration, first thing is that I need to go to the ASA one. I will say enable config T, host name will be ASA one, save it. And if I say that show mode, currently this is in the under the single mode. That means I cannot create the virtual context. So what I have to do, mode multiple, confirm, and confirm, it will reload. Let's go to the ASA2, enable config T, host ASA2, and save it, and do the same thing, mode multiple. Now the next thing will be I need to configure my switch. So I will go to the switch, config T. I will say that we land from 2 to 7 and exit. That's it. Next, I will say that interface range Ethernet 0/0 to 3, comma, Ethernet 1/0 to 3, comma. And here you can see that until 2/3, that is the interface. So interface 2/0 to 3. I want to make switch port trunk encapsulation .1q, switch port mode trunk, and no shut exit. So I almost made each and every ports as trunk ports, except the 3/0 and 3/1. I would say that interface E3/0, switch port mode access, VLAN number, what do we have? 2, 3, and 4, and no shut. Interface E3/1, switch port mode access, VLAN number 5, and no shut exit, and save it. And if I say that do show interface trunk, I should see all the interfaces which are trunk until 2/3. And if I say do show VLAN, and I should see 3/0 assigned to VLAN number 4 and 3/1 assigned to VLAN number 5. So that's all configuration with the switch now. So let's go ahead and do the configuration on the inside router. So I have nothing to do with the inside. I'm just assigning to it. So I will say that interface E0/0, no shut, interface E0/0.1, or I will say that no interface E0/0.1. I'll say interface is 0.2 because it's allocating to VLAN number 2, encapsulation.1q VLAN number 2, and IP address will be 10.0.2.1 and no shut. Interface E0/0.3 encapsulation.1q VLAN number 3, and IP address will be 10.0.3.1 and no shut. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use a routing protocol between both the contexts so that it will make me easier. Otherwise, I have to assign the static route. So S1, I will go with the EIGRP1, and with S2, I am going with the EIGRP process number 2. All right, so let's go ahead and do that one. So as I said, that one interface will be allocated to S1, another one will be for S2. Here also the same thing. I will say that router EIGRP1, no auto summary, network will be 10.0.2.0, 0.0.255, exit. And router EIGRP2, no auto summary, network 10.0.3.0, and exit, and that's it. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the DMZ. Since I'm not having any sub interfaces on the DMZ routers, so I don't need to have two processes of EIGRP over here, like inside or edge. For the DMZ, it's a pretty straightforward configuration. That should be interface E0/0. IP address should be 10.0.4.1. And no shut interface loopback 0 will be IP address will be 172.168.1.1, 255.255.0, and no shut. And router EIGRP 1, because DMZ sales will be belonging to S1. No auto summary, and network will be 0.0.0, exit, and IP HTTP server, IP HTTP authentication local, username will be Cisco, privilege will be 15, and password will be Cisco. I will do the same thing for the marketing now. Interface E0/0, IP address will be 10.0.5.1, and no shut interface loopback 0. IP address will be 172.168.2.1. No shut exit, and I will say router EIGRP number 2 because it belongs to the S2. No auto summary, network will be 0.0.0 and exit. IP HTTP server, IP HTTP authentication local, username will be Cisco, privilege will be 15, and password will be Cisco. So let's do the same thing on the edge router. So on the edge router, I would say config t interface E0/0 and no shut interface E0/0.6 because it belongs to VLAN number 6, encapsulation.1q number 6, and IP address will be 172.1600.1. Oh, no need to go no shut. Interface is 0.7, encapsulation.1q number 7, and IP address will be 172.16.101.1. Next, interface E0/1, IP address will be 192.168.1.1. No shut. Interface E0/2, IP address will be 192.168.2.1. Now on the edge router also, we have to make sure that we segregate that one. So I will say router EIGRP1, no auto summary, network will be 172.1600.0, and I will ask wildcard mask, and network 192.168.1.0. I will add the wildcard mask. Next, router EIGRP2, no auto summary, network will be 172.16.101.0. and network 192.168.2.0. That's it. All right, so everywhere I'm doing the same thing. So I'm making sure that everything is being segregated here. So over here we do have the EIGRP 1 and 2. Over here we have 1. Over here we have 2. And on the edge router also I have 1 and 2. Now this one is a sales PC which belongs to S1, so EIGRP 1. So this one belongs to the S2, EIGRP 2. All right, pretty much all the configuration is ready now. The only thing is that we need to configure our ASAs now in order to have that failover. So let's go to the ASA one now. So it came back. So I will say config T. The first thing what I'm going to do is that show version. So before we change the mode, we have to make sure that we do have license for the security context. And you see that I do have license for the security context until 20. I can create 20 context and it's valid for 364 days. So you have to make sure that you do have license for security context before you go ahead and uh, with the show context mode multiple or show mode multiple. All right. Next thing is that I have to make sure that the configuration file, if you have previously done anything or not, doesn't matter. Still, what you have to do is that you have to say delete start.cfg. Enter and enter and enter. So what this will do is that any configuration file, if you have previously, it will delete all the configuration files so that we don't have any file corruption issues over here. And the next thing is that what I want to do after clearing the files, I want to create the failover groups. So now in the failover group, I will say on the ASA1 failover group 1, that will be the primary. Failover group 2 will be the secondary. Same thing over ASA2, I will say that failover group will be the secondary and failover group 2 will be the primary. Now over here, what I'm going to do for the failover group 1, I'm going to assign it to S1 and the group 2 will be assigned to S2. And in the reverse process, what I'm going to do, group 1 will be assigned to S1, group 2 will be assigned to S2. But if you see that group 1 is primary here and group 2 is secondary here, that means primary is S1 is primary on ASA1 and S1 is secondary on ASA2. Similarly, S2 is secondary on ASA2 and S2 is primary on the ASA1. So let's create that groups now. So I will go to the ASA1 and I will say that failover group 1 primary preempt. So I'm saying preempt because if the ASA1 goes down, I mean, if it comes back, then it will regain its position. Same thing, failover group 2, secondary and preempt, exit. Now I will do the same thing on the ASA2 also. I will say that delete start.cfg and after that I will say failover group 1, secondary preempt, failover group 2, primary preempt and exit. Now that's all been created. So what I have to do now is that I did the mode multiple. If I say show mode, make sure that this is multiple before we do any configuration further. All right, so everything looks like into the place. So other thing is that I need to create the sub interfaces on the ASA1. So what I'm going to do, interface E0, no shut interface E1, E1 no shut interface, E2 no shut interface, E3 no shut interface, E4 no shut interface, E5 no shut. Show interface IP brief. So I'm making sure that all the interfaces are up because I'm going to use all the interfaces. Next, I'm going to do what? Interface E0.1, assign it to VLAN number. So E0.1 is the outside. So I will write down over here so it will be easy for us. Now E0.1 will be the outside for S1 and that will be VLAN number 6. Or I can go ahead and E0.1, I can assign it to the inside for the VLAN number 2. And again, E0.2, that will be the inside. So this one will be the inside for S1. This one will be the inside for S2, VLAN number 3. And E1.1, I can say that it belongs to DMZ for S1, VLAN number 4. and E1.2 belongs to DMZ S2 VLAN number 5, and E2.1 belongs to outside S1 VLAN number 6, and E2.2 outside belongs to S2 VLAN number 7. So now this should give us a clear idea what we have to assign. So E0.1 is VLAN number 2, interface E0.2 is VLAN number 3, interface E1.1 is VLAN number 4, interface E1.2 will be the VLAN number 5, interface E2.1 will be the VLAN number 6, interface E2.2 will be the VLAN number 7. Now 3 and 4 will be belonging to the failover links, and 5 is the management. So I have nothing to worry about it. Right. So, and I will also write down here this one as the VLAN number 4 and VLAN number 5. Now I am using in this way. So if you like to use like a 0.1 as the outside S1, you can go ahead and use it. It's up to you totally how you want to, because if you see that all these interfaces are connected to the switch, no matter how you design your topology, it's going to work. It doesn't matter. Okay, until unless you're configuring correctly the interfaces, that should be fine. If you jumble that inside, outside, and DMZ, if you want to change those interfaces, you can change it. No issues with that one. All right, so once that has been created, now what I'm going to do is that if you see that I'm not doing the same thing on the ASA2. I just created the failover group and deleted the config file. That's it. I only created the sub interfaces here and allocated the VLANs. So once this has been done, let's go ahead and configure our failover now. Failover LAN unit, this one will be the primary. Failover LAN interface, I will say that LAN 1, I will say Ethernet 3, and failover link, I will say LAN 2 Ethernet 4. Now failover interface IP LAN 1, I will use 11.1.1.1, 255.255.0, standby 11.1.1.2, and failover interface IP LAN 2, I will use 12.1.1.1. Standby will be 12.1.1.2. That's it. I did nothing. Next, failover LAN unit will be secondary, this one. Failover LAN, what do you say? Interface LAN 1, E3, and failover link LAN 2, E4. Failover interface IP LAN 1, that should be 11.1.1.1. 2, and failover interface IP LAN 2, 12.1.1.1, 255. All right, so let's go ahead and enable the failover now. Failover and failover, and let the failover happen. Now coming to the ASA2, I have to enable interface E3 no shut, interface E4 no shut. So if I do not enable those interfaces, it will not detect. You see that once I enable those interfaces on the ASA2, only the failover links, that is E3 and E4, that's it. If I enable the two interfaces, it is going to detect that one and it is going to do the failover. So let the failover complete. Okay, it's taking time. Let it take time. Okay, end of the configuration. And if I say that show failover, and you see that still this one is the primary, this one is secondary, and still these are on the negotiation. So it's still taking time for that group to be synchronized. All right, you see that still this one became active now. So it is still synchronizing with the secondary one. And now you see that active standby, and this became active, and this will be soon will become the standby act. All right, active standby active. So all done. So let's go ahead and create the context now. So I will say that admin context admin. Now this command is only to create the admin context, like a special command. And after that, when you say context admin, then I can say that config URL disk 0, and I can give any name, that is admin.cfg file. And again, I'm going to allocate the interface E5, and that's it, exit. I will do the same thing for the context S1. So if you remember that I don't need to give that special command here, I can go ahead and directly create the context S1. Configuration URL will be saved to disk 0 s1.cfg file. And now I will say that allocate interface E 0.1, which is my outside. So I can give a name as what I can say, outside hyphen S1. Instead of using E0.1, I can now see when I go to that context, I will see this name. I will not see interface E0.1. I will see the interface name as the outside dash S1. And now you see that interface range outside S1 doesn't have identical prefix. So dash is not valid. So I have to go with the underscore. Now you see that. I will do the same thing. Allocate interface E 1.1. That should be the DMZ. So if I just come down, 1.1 will be the DMZ underscore S1. And allocate interface E 2.1. That should be, okay, E 0.1 should be the inside. So allocate interface E 0.1. That should be inside underscore S1. And allocate interface E 2.1, that should be outside underscore S1. All done. Let's create the, and one more thing, context S1, I will say that join failover group 1. All right, so because I created that failover group, so I am saying to context S1 to join the failover group, that is the primary on the ASA one, and it will be synchronized with the secondary, that will become the secondary. Context with S1 will be failover group 1 will be the secondary over there. Next, context S2. I will create a config file. URL will be disk 0 s2.cfg. Next, allocate interface E 0.2 inside underscore S2, and allocate interface E 1.2 DMZ underscore S2, and allocate interface E 2.2 outside underscore S2. And I'm also saying that join failover group 2. That's it. So at this point of time, what I did was I have created the context. I have allocated the interfaces to those contexts. And I have also created the configuration file where the configuration will be saved. Next, let's go to the admin context now. I will say change to context. I think should be changed to context admin. And if I say that show IP interface, show interface IP brief, you see that I do have the Ethernet file. And next, once I say that change to context admin, you see that I am in the admin context now. The next, let's go ahead and assign the interface. Interface E5. Name if will be MGMT. Security level will be 100, and IP address. I did not decide anything for the management, so let's go ahead and decide that will be 150.1.7. Maybe 31 primary, and 150.1.7.32 will be the secondary management. I will do the same thing over here now. 150.1.7.31, 255.255.0. Standby will be 150.1.7.32. And exit. So I am done with the management now. So I am saying that change to context S1. So I'm in S1 now. If I say that show interface IP brief now, instead of seeing that E 0.1, 1.1, and 2.1, I'm seeing inside S1, DMZ, and the outside. So it's like renaming the interface. So I would say that interface inside underscore S1, then only it will accept. If I say interface E 0.1, it will not accept. So you have to say interface inside underscore S1. Name if will be inside, IP address will be, okay, let's go to the topology and see. Inside is VLAN number 2, S1, so that will be 10.0.2, 254, standby 10.0.2.253. So because one I am using over there, done. So next, DMZ underscore S1, name if will be DMZ, security level will be 50, and IP address will be 10.0.4.254, standby 10.0.4.253, and exit. Interface outside underscore S1, name if will be outside, and IP address will be 10.172.16.100.254. Standby will be 172.16.100.253. Next, I have to do a monitor interface outside underscore S1. Okay, outside. And another will be the inside, and another one will be the DMZ. So by default, it will not do the monitoring. So I have to monitor those interface. So next, once that is been done, I have assigned the IP address. Let's do the ping, direct connection ping, that is 10.0.2.1. I'm able to ping, and ping 10.0.4.1. I'm able to ping, and ping 172.16.100.1. I'm able to ping. Now let's go ahead and configure our routing protocol. So if I say show route, at this moment, all are directly connected now. So I will say that router EIGRP1, no auto summary, network should be 0.0. So I am assigning 0.0.0 because I am advertising all the interfaces. So instead of just typing individual network, it's easy to type 0.0.0 and click on exit. And if I go to the inside, I should see a neighborship relationship with the EIGRP1. If I go to the edge, I should see the EIGRP1 neighborship. So let's come back here, and if I say show route, and now I am able to see the routes. And you see that these are my servers, that is 192.168.1.1, that is my sales server. All right, so save it. Now, saving is very important. Save inside the context, then go to change to system and save here also. So you have to do both in the system you have to save, as well as on the context you have to save both in both the sides. So let's go to the change to context S2 and show interface IP brief, and you see that that's all good. Next, what I want to do, interface inside underscore S2, and you see that it is giving me a issue here. If you remember that the context S2 is secondary on the primary device, so what I have to do is that I need to exit and change to system. I have to go to the ASA2 where the S2 is primary. I have to say change to context S2, and now here I will say that interface inside underscore S2, and name if will be inside, and IP address will be 10.0.3.254.253. So I can only perform the configuration on the active devices. So that's why it is not allowing me to do the configuration. It says that even if you do, I'm not going to perform the synchronization. So that's why I have to go to the active device and do the configuration. Interface DMZ underscore S2, name if will be DMZ, security level will be 50, and IP address will be 10.0.5.254. Standby 10.0.5.253, and exit. Interface outside underscore S2, name if will be outside, and IP address will be 172.16.101.254 and 172.16.101.253. Do the same thing now. Monitor interface inside, outside, DMZ. And I will do the ping, that is 10.0.3.1, and ping 10.0.5.1, and ping 172.16.101.1. Let's create the router, create the protocol now. Configure the protocol, EIGRP number 2, no auto summary, network will be 0.0.0, and exit. If I go to the DMZ marketing now, it should, and the inside also I should have the 2, and the DMZ also this one, and if I go to the edge one also I should have this one. If I go back to the ASA 2 now, show route, and I should see those routes here. All right, so at this moment, my configuration is done. Everything is ready. So I will do the save. And if I go to change to system and do the save, and the configuration has been saved. Now I want to allow PC1 to communicate with 172.16.1.1. So what I am going to do is that change to context S1. I will say that access list, I will say sales, permit TCP, network will be 192.168.1.0, to host 172.16.1.1 in equation 80. I'm only allowing port number 80. I'm not allowing ping, or I'm not allowing anything. Next, access group sales in interface outside, and save it. So I have allowed the access. I will do the same thing on the change to context S2, and I will say that access list mark for marketing, and I will say that permit TCP 192.168.2.0 network to the host 172.16.2.1 in equation 80, and access group mark in interface outside, and save it. Now the next thing would be, I don't want PC1 to see the actual interface, like actual IP address of the sales or marketing. So I want to do the natting. So what I'm going to do is that instead of having 172.16.1.1, I want the IP address to be shown as 17.16.1.1. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I want to show up the IP address as 17.16.2.1. So whenever the PC1 is communicating, it will communicate on this particular IP address, 17.16.2.1. Now, let's go ahead and configure the NAT first. So I'm on the S1. So I will say I will use the object network. So object network sales. I will say that host 172 16. It should be 17.16.1.1. So I created a object which says that sales and IP address is been assigned to this one. Next object network, I will say sales NAT. Host will be 172.16.1.1, and I am saying that NAT from DMZ to outside static sales. So basically what I did was first I created the object for this particular IP address, which is known as sales. Then I defined the another object which says that sales dot hyphen net. I defined which is the host which I'm going to do the net for. And I said that it's from the DMZ to the outside whenever, and it should be mapped to this particular IP address, that is 17.16.1.1, and save it. Next, let's go to the ASA2, and I'm saying that object network marketing. I will say that the host will be 17.16.2.1 exit, and object network mark net host will be 172.16.2.1. I want to do the NAT from DMZ to outside static marketing and exit. I will save it. So once that has been done now for 17.16.1.1, so this is the main router which is going to do the routing. So PC1 will send a packet to 17.16.1.1, and edge router does not have any information about it. So I have to say that IP route 17.16.1.1 via 172.16.100.254. And I will do the same thing for the 2.1. So basically what I'm saying is that 1.1 belongs to S1. So that's why I'm giving this IP address, which is the outside interface of S1. And this belongs to the S2. So that's why I'm giving the outside interface of S2. Now all the pieces looks like fine now. Let me go ahead and go to the ASA one, change to system, and if I say show failover, and you see that active standby, and it is standby active, that's all been synchronized. So I will save it. Now go back to change to context S1, come back here, first change to system and save the config, and change to context S2. All right, it's all done now. So let's go and start our PCs now. First, I will start one PC, that is PC1. Okay, looks like it's gone now. I need to delete that one. That's fine. Let me start this one before I take the another one. Okay, this one is working. That's good. And so I will take one more PC. That should be PC1. And I will just attach it to this one. So let's confirm the S2 first, then we will come back to S1. So now I will give the IP address add 192.168.2.2/24 dev and IP route add default via 192.168.1.1, sorry, 2.1. If I say that ping 192.168.1.2.1, I should be able to ping. And if I ping 172.1600 101.254, I should be able to ping the outside interface. All right, so let's go to the browser now, and I will just type in 17.16.2.1, and I'm inside the show IP HTTP server history. And now you can see that So I was able to access the marketing. So let's go back to the ASA 2 now. That's where the S2 is. If I say that show access list, and you see that there is the access list has actually hit it. If I say that show NAT, and you see that it should be translated, but I'm not sure why it is showing untranslated, but it should be translated because it has translated because the IP address you can see over here. All right, so I was successful. Now if I go ahead and do the ping to 17.16.2.1, I'm not able to. And similarly, if I go to the sales, if I try to go to the sales, that is 17.16.1.1, I'm not able to access the, what do we say, the sales server, because this one is the marketing server and we did not allow or give permission to it. Okay, so that's all good. So let's go ahead and verify the PC1 now. That should be S1 context. Okay, it came up. That's good. Let's assign the IP address. That should be IP address add 192.168.1.2/24 dev ETH0 and IP route add default via 192.168.1.1. And if I do ping 192.168.1.1, I should be able to ping. And if I ping 172.16.100.254, I should be able to ping. So let's go ahead and access the sales server now. That should be 17.16.1.1. Okay, let's go to the ASA one, do the troubleshoot. So access list, what is the access list? 1.1. Yeah, it is hitting. So let's go to the DMZ sales, and if I do show IP route, yes, I'm able to see the route. That should be good. And if I go to the edge and if I say do show IP route, and I do have a route 1.1 going with 100.254. And if I come back here and if I say that show run object, yep, 17.16 1.1. Okay, you see that 172.168. This is the problem I have. So I have to go to object network sales underscore NAT. Host will be 172.168.1.1 and exit show run object. And now you see that that's the good thing of the object. So once we created the object, we can change the, and here also I have not given 168, and I will also cross check on the sales one also. To show IP interface brief and 172.60 and 1.1. That's fantastic. Should be all good now. So if I come back here and I will just go and reconnect. And also if I say that show access list, and here also I have given the wrong access list. So what I have to do is that access list sales permit TCP 192.168.1.0 to host 172.168.1.1 in equation port number 80. So it is hitting on the wrong one. So if I say show access list and if I say no access list sales, and I will remove that first one, which is the wrong access list. If I say show access list now, I do have only one. And now you see that I have already got the access to the server now, to the sales server. Show IP HTTP server history. And now you can see that we do have the. So now if I go back and check with the 17.16.2.1, I should not get access. And if I try to ping 17.16.1.1, still no access. And if I try to ping 17.16.2.1, still no access. right? So you're not able to communicate. So if I come back here and if I say that show access list, so it is hitting, so that's all good. And if I say that show NAT and still it is hitting to untranslated, but it should be translated. All right, so that was the active. And again, one more thing is that if you want to confirm these things, if you have to be inside your respective context in order to see those settings. So what do we say? Verify those settings. So if I want to verify the what do we say, the sales access list, whether it has hit or not. So this is where I have to be, that should be in the S1. But if I want to verify for the marketing one, I should be into the context of S2. But if I go back here and if I say that show change to context S2, and if I say show access list, and you see that I'm seeing 0 here, because this one is the standby on the ASA1 S2, but this S1 is active on the ASA2. So that's why you're able to see that the traffic is going via ASA2. So this is the verification that what I have configured, what I want to achieve was PC1 should go via ASA1 because that's where S1 is active, and PC2 should go via ASA2, that's where S2 is active. So this gives you the verification that on the secondary S2 there is no hit, but on the primary S2 there is a hit for the access list. All right, so I hope this was informative for you, and thank you.